Welcome to Mind Changers Podcast. Listen, I got my sidekick with me today, Mr. Shann Atkinson. What's going on, my brother?
What's going on? What's going on, Lamar? Good to see you. Good to
Oh,
be back
man,
for
good to
another
see
week
you
of
too, my brother.
another week of discussion.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Listen, y'all, we got something excited for you. Listen, we got another sidekick that is coming on to the show, Mr. Cornelius Austin. But before we do that, listen, you know we got to give y'all this.
Mind Changers International, changing lives for the better. Our vision is to be a transformative platform that exposes lies and reveals the truth. Mind Changers International, we on a mission, masking the falsehoods with every new edition. We're here to enlighten your mind with this vibration, expose the lies, speak the truth, normal conversations. Mind Changers International, we on a mission.
Welcome to Mind Changers Podcast. Listen, as I said, I'm your host, Lamar Blakney. I got my sidekick, Shann Atkinson. And ladies and gentlemen, for the very first time, we got Mr. Cornelius Austin. Listen, great to people, sir.
What's up, Lamar? What's going on, Shann?
What's going on, my brother?
Listen, man, we got a very, very exciting topic that we're going to discuss today on Mind Changers Podcast. And I mean, we've been studying for this all week. It's going to be a mind-boggling topic, and it's going to cause us to expose some of our inner stuff ourselves. And Shann was a little uncomfortable about this one right here, but I know he's going to do well. He does well. So Cornelius, man, the topic at hand today, we're going to dive into a topic titled, listen, the power of letting go. The power of letting go. I got a lot of popping going on in my microphone, so let me put it over here to my side. The power of letting go. What y'all guys think about that topic?
That's a powerful
Yeah, what
topic,
you got,
man.
Corny? What you got?
For one, I know speaking personally, I would be a lot farther along in certain areas of my life if I had learned how to let certain things go.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Even letting
Absolutely.
not just
Same
things, but letting some people go.
Cutting the cord, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sometimes you got to cut the
and
umbilical cord.
Yeah, I think letting go is the number one reason why people can't move forward a lot of times, because there's a lot of different things that people can't let go. I mean, there's people, like Cornelius said. There's situations that you just can't quite forgive. There's people that you can't forgive. There's appetites that you can't let go. I mean, there's so many things that about letting go that hold us back and keep us from being our best self.
That's true. That's true. And you know, sometimes life can feel like you're carrying a bag full of rocks, stones in the back, right? Each one representing either disappointment or hurt and fears that weigh us down, fellas. It weighs us down. But if we could just, lighten that load and create a space for something beautiful and new, we would not be held back as much as we are sometimes.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. That's
So
right.
what you think, Cornelius?
Absolutely, man. I mean, just looking at this is like opening up a whole world of stuff. Just the title alone, the power of letting go.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I thought about something that I had said once. A lot of times we get stuck in stuff, and stuck is what we will not do.
Yeah.
The only time we get stuck in something is stuff that we won't do. But I've never seen a car go forward and reverse at the same time.
That's
right.
a good one. That's a good one.
It's gotta pick a direction.
That's
So
right.
Cornelius, when you say we get stuck in something, expound on that a little bit for me.
We get stuck in ideologies. We get stuck in doctrines. We get stuck in being indoctrinated. We get stuck by trauma. And when we start to see things that resemble past disappointments and so forth, that can cause us to freeze and get stuck.
Yeah.
You know,
I
think
agree.
about the
absolutely.
natural what is it, the fight or flight, fight, flight or freeze.
That's right.
I didn't realize how powerful freeze was.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's
It's
right.
powerful. It's powerful. I'm glad you brought that up. So, I would be remiss if I didn't. Hold on, I'm having some technical difficulties over here, y'all. Give me one moment. Yeah, got it. I would be remiss because all of us are in ministry. Shann is in ministry. He's in music ministry. Cornelius, we're both elders in the ministry. So to tackle a topic like this, let's kick this off with a little scripture, all right, to set the tone. So let's look at Isaiah 43:18 through 19. And it reads this: Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. This is God talking now. This is a divine intervention to release what no longer serves us and embrace the fresh beginning that God has in store for us. This scripture let us know that we got to let some things go. We got to let some people go. We got to let some habits go. We got to let some friends go. We got to let some mindsets go. We're going to have to let a lot of things go. So let's talk about some of the things that we might need to let go here on the podcast tonight. Now, listen, if y'all watching this podcast, please subscribe to our podcast. Listen, share this with a friend. Last week was talking about Project 2025. If I don't never say it again, I don't want to say it again. But that's what we did last week. So let's focus on, and I want to be the guide tonight. Do y'all mind if I be the guide tonight?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I think the first thing that I would want us to talk about is disappointments. How do we let go, fellas, of the disappointments in our lives, whether voluntary, involuntary, self-inflicted, or you're a victim of something somebody has done to you? So let's talk about, because we heard what that scripture says, let's talk about disappointments in our lives and how we struggle and how somebody else out there may struggle when it comes to disappointments. Shann, I'm gonna pass the baton to you, sir.
Yeah, man. Disappointments seem to be a lot of times the big one. That's the one that we have the hardest thing to let go, because disappointments are tied to so many different things. It's tied to people that you loved, that did something to you that you just can't get over. Disappointment is tied to things that you want in your life and you do not receive them. And then you see somebody that's close to you that ends up achieving what it is that you want to. So then you're disappointed there, and you're looking like, well, God, why couldn't I get that? I mean, I wanted it. I asked for it first. So I didn't get it. So whenever you have disappointments, those are the hardest to let go, because it's always a person tied to a disappointment or an achievement that in your life that you're trying to get to that you don't reach. And then you always have that resentment. You have that resentment towards that person who wronged you, who disappointed you. You have resentment to yourself, and a lot of times you're disappointed in yourself because you didn't measure up to whatever it needed to be for you to get to where you want to be. And then a lot of times when you start resenting yourself, you're gonna and you are in a situation where you have belief. Sometimes you can start resenting God, and that right there, that really compounds that disappointment. And so disappointment is really, really tough sometimes.
What about you, Cornelius?
I just want to add one thing for me that I've personally had experienced. Disappointment, at the root of disappointment is an unfulfilled expectation. There
right.
is some level of expectation that was not met.
That's right.
And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because the reason we get disappointed is because we are never to put an expectation on a person. When you put expectations on people, you're setting yourself up to be let down. So
Absolutely.
a lot of times people say, well, I'm holding you to a standard. That's not right. Because what if I don't want to be held to that standard? Right. So when I look at disappointment, it's like holding on. For me, fellas, disappointment is like trying to drive forward while looking in the rearview mirror. Right. You're going to run into something because you keeping your eyes back on that disappointing moment. You're keeping your mind on how it felt, how embarrassed you was. And God don't want us walking around focusing on our disappointments. He wants us to learn from them. He wants us to take it as a instrument to use to move forward, because you can't look in the rearview mirror and drive forward. You can't even walk looking backwards, because you're going to run into something. And I'm telling you, for me, that's what disappointment is. That's what disappointment is. It's like driving a car, looking in the rearview mirror, and trying to get to a destination. This is why he says, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, and in my own life, coming up and having disappointment in certain areas of my family, there came a time to where being disappointed in that person was actually therapeutic in a weird way. It's kind of like I just kind of wallowed in it, and by wallowing in it, I gave myself purpose. I felt like I was giving myself purpose, because now I have an enemy in my life. I have someone in my life that wronged me. I have someone in my life that I've got to prove wrong. I got somebody in my life, I don't need you. So it ended up becoming fuel to that fire. It made me feel like I was driven and pushing forward. But all along, all it was doing was it was infecting my spirit. It was infecting my spirit all along.
Gotcha. Cornelius, I want to focus on you tonight, my friend. Let's dive deep into the concept of disappointment and how it can affect all of our lives. Would you mind expounding on that for me?
Not at all. Shann, that was an amazing job on you allowed it to push you. But I've flipped the coin to the other side. You can also allow it to cause you to get stuck or stagnated.
Absolutely.
And feel like you have to try to measure up against other people's expectations of you.
That's right.
But you know what?
I applaud you.
Yeah. And sometimes, now I know I just said something about we shouldn't put expectations on people, but sometimes on the reverse side of expectation, it can force you to do better, to be better, right? It can force you to be accountable for something, because we all have those moments when life takes a turn we didn't expect. Maybe it was a job opportunity that slipped away, a relationship that didn't pan out, a dream that was so far out of reach it looked like you're reaching to the moon. Those disappointments can weigh us down. It will weigh us down. Almost like I say, a backpack with a box of rocks on the back. So when we carry that weight, it can be hard to focus on the road ahead. I'm telling you, people, let go of disappointment. Take disappointment as a lesson. Don't take it as a failure. Take it as a lesson. Don't take it because I didn't get what I was supposed to get. Take it as God didn't want me to have it. Take disappointment to another level. You can't hold on to it, because I've been disappointed about a lot of things, and I have disappointed a lot of people.
That's right.
I've disappointed a lot of people.
Choose to do with that.
Say that again, Cornelius.
It's about how we choose to handle that. We can either tell. There's two ways that you can tell the story behind a scar. You can tell people this is where I got hurt, or this is where I was healed. But both of those stories, depending on how you tell that story, is going to have a different narrative.
Yeah. So we on the topic of letting go, right? And right now we focusing about disappointment. I'm going to be transparent today, because in order for people to get help, in order for a person to move forward, letting go of disappointment, it doesn't mean that you forget those experiences or the lessons, that it taught us. Instead, it's about acknowledging our feelings, then we process those feelings, and then choosing to move forward. It's like saying, yes, I was taught this and it hurt, but I won't let it define my future. Does that make sense, fellas? Yeah. I won't let disappointment, define my future. And failure can be some of the best lessons you will ever have.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And we had a preacher this week, Shann. You know, me and you talked about this way before Sunday. Preacher preached about letting go when enough is enough.
Right.
And I was like, wow. That really stuck with me. Cornelius was there as well. That really stuck with me about how we deal with disappointments, because I'm telling you, friendships has broken up. People have left ministries because they were disappointed. They stopped speaking to people because of being disappointed. They children are not communicating with their parents because of disappointments. People get fired over a boss being disappointed with them. You know, it's a word, but it can become a chronic condition if you allow it to sit in the cells of your body. If you allow it to resonate on you instead of just saying, you know what, let me take this as a hard lesson, you know, on the road of life. And I'm going to make sure that I don't create this type of disappointment again.
That's right. Also, too, and this just kind of came in my mind. I just thought about this. Not all disappointments are bad things. I mean, because when you want something and you don't get it, it may not have been meant for you. I mean, a lot of times we always envision what we're going to be, who we're going to be, what we're going to do, but at the end of the day, it's not always what's best for you. And not to mention, if somebody disappoints you, sometimes they just may not know they disappointed you. They don't know they did something. They don't know they did not measure up to you, because you're not communicating with those individuals and letting them know, like, what you did, I don't like what you did towards me. And most of the time, if you're living in a healthy space with another individual, or you're living in a healthy space with your friends or your family or your spouse or whatever, sometimes you could just talk this stuff out. Everything, we have to also look at it. Everything is not always, a disappointment is not always meant to attack you. It's not always meant to go after you. It's not always meant to be decisive. Sometimes a disappointment is nothing more than a miscommunication, something that you didn't need in your life all along, and you didn't know what's best for you. Or sometimes it's just a miscommunication.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed? Check this out. It's crazy. Have you ever noticed sometimes when you release those disappointments out of your life, new paths open up? Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's as if we clear the way for new opportunities and new experiences.
That's right.
You know, when you decide to let those disappointments go. So I got a question for you guys. All right. So can you can you speak on the worst disappointment you have ever had in your life?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whoever want to go first?
I'll go first. I'll tell mine. Okay. Yeah, this is me opening up, being a little transparent world. So bear with me. There had a situation where my mother basically walked out of my life when I was a young boy. I was 8 years old. She dropped me off with my grandparents, and that was basically it. And for many, many years, the connection between me and her, got less and less and less. Now, I'm the child, she's the adult, and she's choosing to. I mean, I can't get in the car and go see her. I can't. I don't have a phone to call her, so I needed her to be the adult and keep the relationship going. Well, it became less and less and less to where we actually had no contact whatsoever, and we went 20 years, and I never heard anything from her. Now, granted, I'm the child, but all along, of course, as a child, you're looking at yourself that you did something wrong. Okay, I did something wrong. Not realizing that, no, you didn't do anything wrong. You were just being a child. She's the one that walked out of your life. She's the one that left. She's the one that decided to cut all ties with the child. To this day, I can't fathom, with my love for my children, I can't fathom walking out of my child's life and never seeing them again. It makes no sense to me. Now, that's not the most disappointing thing in my life with that whole situation. Years later, my wife suggested, well, why don't you try to find her?
That's not the most disappointing thing in my life.
So we went looking. We found her. We did a little digging. I was able to find her, and I gave her a call, and it seemed like, yeah, hey, I'm so glad you called me, you know. And so we drove all the way to Alabama to see her. Me, my wife, and at the time it was my youngest daughter, and my son. And we went there, and the whole time, you know, we were trying to rekindle, we were trying to do all that stuff, but I could not get her to what's the word I'm trying to say? To acknowledge her mistakes. I couldn't get her to apologize. I couldn't get her, you know, she spent the whole time just complaining about how the world was against her and how she couldn't, you know, she couldn't do this, she couldn't do that. She was telling false truths about situations the whole time, and I was like, Mom, that's not how I saw it. That's not how I remember it, you know. And it ended up not being, ended up going south really, really quick, and she just did not want to acknowledge any of the wrongdoing. She didn't want to apologize, and that's all I was looking for. If she had just said, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I made a mistake, and I want to move forward, I would have let it all go.
Wow.
I mean, it would have been water under the bridge. I mean, I would have completely forgot about the past, and we would have moved forward. But she just could not let go of the fact that she was the victim. She played the victim the whole time, and that just it put a sour taste in my mouth about the whole reunion. And when we parted ways, she never again. I mean, I tried to keep up with her. I tried to talk to her, but she again went dark, went missing, and that just showed me that I literally, and that was the most disappointing time in my life. I realized that I'm not important to her. I realized that I'm just a stranger in her life, and that we will never have a relationship. And that was the day I had to bury my mother. I literally had to symbolically bury my mother and move forward. So that was a tough day in my life when that happened.
So I want to talk a little bit about that, Shann. Now that you're a man with a family, you have children, and they have a mother, how has that disappointment shaped your life now as you 48, Shann, or 49?
51.
Shann, the 5'1". Boy, you done got the 50 club. Oh my God. How does that make you feel now that you've overcome it, but is it still a place in your heart that that can't be filled? And how are you dealing with that now as a man? Because I got a story, and I'll share that with you guys. How are you dealing with that as a man right now today?
It's hard. It's kind of funny because the older I got, I figured it was something that my mind would forget about, and I wouldn't any longer be a problem. But the older that I'm getting, the harder it's becoming, because I literally had to reach out for some help with this, because it's hard. Mother's Day are horrible because I see so many people post about how they love their mother and how much their mother's done for them. And I go through this and I read all this, and I cannot reciprocate that. I can't join into that festivity because I don't have a mother that ever was a mother to me. And and not only that, it's not like she passed away and I had to move forward. She was alive, and she said, I want nothing to do with you. I mean, you're a young boy, 8 years old. You can't fend for yourself, but you know what? I don't care, because I just don't want to do this anymore. Now, granted, it won't just me. It was my sister. So my sister dealt with it as well. But it has shaped me to the point to where it has made me want to be perfect. I lived my life a long time trying to live by a law that I created for myself. rules of engagement, rules of life, rules of dealing with people that I thought was actually doing me good. But the whole time I did not realize it was stifling me. I was creating a false narrative for myself. If I wasn't perfect, I beat up myself. And then not only that, it made me I never wanted to have any kind of conflict with a human being because I was afraid if I had conflict that person would walk out of my life. So it made me a meek individual that I let people walk over me for much of my life because I just didn't want to make that person mad that I wanted an emotional attachment with, and then I would let that individual, and a lot of people walked over me because they saw it, they knew it, they walked all over me through my life. And
Wow.
so as it's just now, I'm 51 years old now, and I'm just now realizing that I can't be that way. I've got to stand up for myself. I've got to put my foot down. I can't worry about somebody being upset about something I say, I do, or how I conduct myself. They just gonna have to get over it. And if you don't want to be with me, oh well, And I'm 51 years old in America. I'm just figuring this out. I'm just figuring this out.
Wow. Man, I'm tearing up over here because
That's hard.
Because my story is almost like yours, Shann,
Right.
but it's a little different.
Okay.
And Cornelius grew up in a 2-parent household, so I'm gonna say he's blessed, but then he may come to us tonight and say, well, there's some areas I wasn't blessed.
Yeah.
And so, my mom has always been in my life, and we're talking about disappointment. Now we talking about hurt and pain, like thorns in our hearts. They keep us from experiencing the fullness of love, like you said, Shann, remembering. But one thing I learned, forgiveness is a gift, right? It's a gift for us, and it's a gift for the person we forgive.
Yeah.
My experience is my father, right? Man, I don't want to cry, but I love that man.
Right.
He didn't care nothing about me, man.
Right.
He didn't care anything about me.
Right.
I look like him. I walk like him. I preach like him. I mean, he didn't love me. And I'm 56. And sometimes I cry about it. I'm trying not to get emotional. But I'm tearing up now because that was a disappointment. Man, that it scraped my heart in a way. Nobody has hurt me that bad as he has hurt me.
Right.
Right? And that disappointment, a little boy who's asking his friends how it feels like to have a father, and you have one. You didn't know you had one because, Shann, you found out about my dad when I found out about him. I've known him all my life, but at my brother's funeral, that's when we were face to face, and we realized, wow, because I've always called him Pops, because he always came to get me, and I didn't understand why. But I'm gonna tell you about the worst disappointment I had with him, and I had to overcome it. I needed a car, right? And he called me up. And he said, hey, go find a car. I'm going to give you $1,000. Now, you're looking at a man at 35 whose father never gave him a brown penny.
Right.
Now, I'm about to experience what it feels like to have a father help you. I'm excited. I'm telling my mom. She's getting a little jealous because he ain't never done nothing for me. But she sees the excitement in me. I go get the car. Go get the car, man. Calls me up the next day. How you like the car? Like, Pops, man, it drives good. I appreciate that because at this time, me and my wife was going through it financially. I mean, I'm going to be transparent. We had a van that I had to get up in the winter and take a blow dryer. Listen to me. A blow dryer and defrost the windows.
Okay.
We had, because we talking about disappointment, I'm going to be real. We had a gas heater in the van.
Okay.
My babies were cold. The heat only lasts her down the street. And so he's coming in as my hero. My dad, like, wow, he's helping me out. Get the car. Happy about it. He calls me back next week. When you going to pay me back? I was like, okay, I'm already struggling financially, right? I'm on this high because he never did anything for me, and I'm experiencing what it feels like to have your father step in when you need him. He didn't help me through college. I did that on my own. He didn't help me become a man. I did that on my own. But this one thing that he had an opportunity to give me, he crushed it. It was like the music would go, dun, 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 then the paperback. And so I was like, I got to pay you back. He was like, yeah, man, it's my money. That's how he said it. I was like, all right, how am I going to pay you back? Just send me $50 every 2 weeks. I said, okay. It broke me.
I can see that.
I had an opportunity in that hurt and pain to say, man, you ain't never, I had the right to tell him off, but guess what I never did, Shann?
What's that?
I never disrespected this man.
Okay.
Never. I just shut up and I humbled myself. And when he left this world, even though I never gave him that $1,000 back,
right,
I ain't feel no guilt. But I was still hurt because even on his deathbed, he had an opportunity to help me, and he reneged on it because I owed him $1,000. If you divide that $1,000 by 35 years, I came up with 3 cents a day.
Okay. Yeah.
He complained over 3 cents a day.
Right.
And they tell you that you can feed a child for 21 cents over there in Africa.
Exactly.
At that time. So just like you, Shann, I've dealt with great disappointment. So, Mr. Cornelius, what is the greatest disappointment that you had and you had to overcome, like Shann and myself?
Wow. Unfortunately, fortunately, my disappointment was not created at home. My disappointment was a little different, and since we're being completely transparent, mine occurred about a little over a year ago when I had a stroke.
Yeah.
I went through, I was mad with God, and I literally threw up my hands and was like, okay, this is what we're doing now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Woo. Yeah.
It was like my world turned upside down. Thriving relationships with my kids, thriving relationship with my wife, and now everything just switched.
Gotcha.
And it's challenging now because I'm having to fight my way back. And I'm gonna be honest, there are some days that I do not want to get up and get out of bed, but I have to. But then one of the things I've been thinking about this week was the scripture, the story in the Bible where I believe it's in 1 Kings, where I believe it was Samuel was mourning over Saul, and God asked him a question that says, Samuel, how long will you mourn over Saul, knowing that I have rejected him?
Yes.
And I was like, oh, wow. So that told me that there are times that we can connect with people and try to carry a person over into a season that's longer than what they were meant to be.
Okay.
But yeah, that's been one of the biggest challenges, the biggest disappointment. I sit and I feel like at times life is passing me by. I watch people, and then I had to catch myself because I stopped being like, well, I wonder why it couldn't have been them and why it couldn't have been this person or couldn't have been this person, somebody random.
Yep.
And then I had to stop myself with they may not have the support that I have.
Right.
And there's so many things that could have come out of this totally different.
Right.
But yeah, that was very disappointing, and that's one day I will never forget. So if I regain 100%, that's one thing that's going to always be with me. I will never ever forget that day. But I would say this to you guys, man. Being a parent, it's amazing how not having a parent, our kids may not remember everything that we told them, but one thing they will remember is how we made them feel.
Yeah.
That's right.
And no
That's true.
child, no little boy, no little girl wants to feel like they're not important.
Right.
And they get reminded by it, like when your friends, even at PTO parent teacher meetings, and you see your friends there with both of their parents or that parent that's not present in your life, and it makes you start to ask the question, what's wrong with me? Why wouldn't they want me? So, man, I let me just apologize to the both of you for not having that parent there, because I know in that moment, like you said, Shann, an apology would have made the conversation go completely different direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah. You know, that falls into the shame category. You know, shame is like a heavy cloak that suffocates our spirit. That's why we're not, no matter what we went through, fellas, America, no matter what y'all go through out there, do not live in the shame pool. Do not, because it's like a cloak. It will suffocate you. And when I think about it, I think about Romans 8. It says, therefore, there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. You know, let that cloak fall away. Let the cloak of shame fall away from you. Listen, because mental health is real, y'all. There are people who, there are people who don't even want to wake up in the morning. You know, waking up is like pulling teeth. Going to sleep is the best thing for them because they feel like this is my opportunity to not be aware. I don't want to be aware. That's why people drink. That's why people smoke, because they use it as a coping mechanism so that they can become numb to what's really going on. They don't want reality. They don't want nothing to do with reality. They want to be out of reality. And this is why I'm so happy that we're doing this podcast on letting go. See, we have to take our problems, throw them in a lake, and then we need to build a bridge over them. How do we build this bridge? How do we build this bridge over our problems, over our shames, over our pain and hurt? Because that's what I had to do with my dad. I had to build a bridge over that. I'm 50 something years old and I'm still crying about what this man didn't do. I had to let it go.
That's right. That's right.
I had to let it go. When I thought about him being gone, I'm like, well, what am I missing? He didn't call me. He don't tell me he loved me unless I said it to him. He didn't do anything for me. So when he died, I'm like, what am I missing?
Right.
You can't miss nothing. But I miss having a father. Whether he did anything for me or not. If I call him, he pick up the phone, that is the man that gave me life. And if you're a young person out here, if you're listening to me, don't have expectations on your parents. The greatest gift they gave you was life. And there's no other gift they can give you greater than that. I don't care if they send you to 20 colleges. I don't care if they buy you 50 cars. They gave you something that you can't give back, and that is life.
That's right.
That is life.
Right. And I approached that with God. God doesn't owe me anything. He gave me the greatest thing he could have ever gave me. Life. Period. Life. And that's that's the way I look at it. Yeah. But hey, Cornelius, Cornelius, I'd like you to try to go in a little bit deeper. When was your aha moment after your stroke and having you're dealing with God and blaming him and being mad with him? When was your aha moment that pulled you up out of that?
Man, honestly, talking to people like Lamar and a couple of other friends that I know of, and they reminded me, dude, you could have gone. And trust me, I've had some of the lowest days of my life in the last few months. But just realizing it wasn't as bad as it could have been. And then I reflect on friends of mine who's had strokes, whose deficits are far greater than mine. One of which he cannot speak, he can't talk, he can't use his hands, he can't use his feet, his legs. He's not able to walk. Wow. So that made me be thankful and just be like, you know what, God, okay, and ask God to forgive me. But it took, and I'm a musician and I love playing the bass guitar, but I haven't played the bass in over a year. and I'm like, I'm giving this back to you, God, and now it's taken from me.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
Come on, talk about it, man.
So that's been therapeutic for me, just kind of putting everything in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thankful for the people who I have in my life who hold me accountable, even in times where I don't feel like being held accountable.
Okay.
And I realized that there are certain parts of me that may never get back to how they were over a year ago. But I'm thankful that I'm still here to see my children, my son go to college.
Okay.
I still have 2 daughters that I need to be able to walk down the aisle on their day when they're getting married. So I'm thankful that I'm able to still be here and still be with my wife. Our relationship isn't perfect,
Right.
but I'm thankful that I still have an opportunity today to do what I did not do yesterday.
Awesome. Now, if everybody out there, as you can see, we're talking about the power of letting go, and you've seen just 3 examples of having to let go something that really affected us, really impacted who we are, really impacted the growth, and really impacted the maturity of us as we were going forward. And I just want everybody to understand that the power of letting go allowed us to put those things on the shelf. We didn't forget them. We know that they're here. We know that we're dealing with them. We deal with them on a daily basis, but we've done the one thing that's going to empower us and move us forward. We have let go those massive disappointments in our life. We've let them go. We've given them over to God, and we have forgiven the individuals that wronged us and made us feel less than important. Or in Cornelius' situation, he has forgiven God for something he felt like God did to him, and he had that aha moment that it can happen to anybody. It's nothing that God did specifically to him. It's just we're in a world where these things happen. So he's come to the realization that he has forgave him. So I just want everybody to understand that the power of letting go is the first obstacle that will get you over the hump of those massive disappointments.
Yeah. And
It
Cornelius,
starts with a decision. Yeah.
yeah, I want to dig deeper, man, in your situation, because there's somebody out there who, if they didn't have a stroke, they had a procedure, and if they didn't have a procedure, they had an accident. If they didn't have an accident, their health is failing them. Now I'm gonna pull on you, okay? I'm gonna pull on you, bro. If me and Shann close our eyes right now, tell us, what was the worst day you ever had when you had to wake up and be reminded that I can't get up, go get in the car, go to McDonald's. I can't go grab my wife like I want to grab her. I can't go and take my son to the gym, because you were doing a lot of things in your family. You was running like a bird. Like, I was like, how is this guy doing this? But you was really an advocate for your family. When all of that was taken from you, tell us, because somebody needs to hear this. Tell us how you truly felt, from anger, disappointment, pain, failure. How did you feel? And don't leave anything out.
My emotions have been all over the place. To feeling angry, upset, abandoned, feeling useless, feeling less than a man. That one day in particular that I got ready to get out of the bed, and my left side is still a little weak to this day. And I stood up and I just fell back down. And I realized that I wasn't able to move like I used to. That was eye-opening for me. Yeah, CJ and I used to get up and go to the gym, and I could no longer, man, a lot fell on my wife. My wife, I gotta give it to her, man. She stepped up and picked up a lot of the slack. And at the time I was taking it personal, feeling like I was getting in the way. and just that cloak of guilt and shame, because I felt like it was my fault and I felt like a failure.
Okay.
But then even going places, and she would have to put lugging the wheelchair in and out of the car and putting it back and forth and trying to push me up and down hills.
Yep.
And I realized that was a lot.
Wow.
Come on, man.
And one day I just sat down on the side of the bed and I just broke down and started crying.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
Wow. It's all right, bro.
That's crazy.
This is what this podcast is about, man. This is gonna be healing for you, me, and Shann.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Absolutely.
Every misstep is a stepping stone towards growth. We gotta embrace these lessons rather than treating them as burdens. Would y'all agree?
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you experience
life is all about growth. Life is all about just the perils of this life and how you can overcome them. Because God never said we weren't going to have to deal with anything. Even the saints got to deal with stuff.
Yeah, and think about it.
Gives us the ability to do it.
Yeah, and think about this. Although you had a stroke, if you took 100 stroke victims and they threw their problems in the bucket, right? Mm-hmm. And then they say, go get your problem. Cornelius, you probably wouldn't find yours.
Yep, you probably wouldn't find your problem.
Because you said you got a friend who can't talk, walk, move, or do anything. And I know him. He was one of the baddest organists I had ever heard in my entire life. This man, imagine what he feels like.
Yeah.
Grieving is essential. We do know that. But we can't let it define us. We have to allow ourselves to feel, heal, and ultimately let those memories become treasures rather than chains. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Breaking those chains. Right. We can't let them walk around like attachments in an email.
That's right.
We have to let these things go. And tonight, fellas, I'm going to let go of all of that hurt and shame that my father calls me as a young man who just wanted to look in his father's eyes. And he said, man, I love you, boy. I never got that. But guess what?
Validation.
I give it to my kids, man. When I tell you I'm the lover when it comes to my kids, man, me and my son, we hug. When we see each other, it's a 2-minute hug. We call it a man hug. We hug. I kiss my kids, man, appropriately. Because, that's how rumors get out. But I kiss my kids appropriately. My daughters, they know I'm very affectionate towards them. That's why another man can't tell them what love is, because they know, because they experienced it from their fathers. So listen, I hope y'all guys are getting a lot of what we're talking about, the power of letting go. Listen, y'all need to share this. Well, we hope you guys will share this episode. This is Cornelius' first time on the podcast. We decided to not have any distractions. We want to introduce him to everybody, let him know that he's going to be a regular on Mind Changes podcast. Yes, we're going to do the videos. Yes, we're going to talk about different subjects, but we're going to deal with the power of letting go, because somebody's holding on to something. And listen to me. Here's the dangers of holding on to something. It's like building up interest in an account. It's like a secret indictment by the FBI. They don't tell you they got something on you, but they keep record of it. And then as soon as you get to a breaking point, boom, the bomb blow up, and the person that you expel that energy on, they're taking aback. They're like, what did I do? And it's like, man, you always did this. You always did that. That's why it's important to address things you don't like. See, letting go is mean letting go of those harboring feelings. Letting go of it. I got a lot of stuff I got to let go. I got to take inventory. I have a lot of things I have to let go. Like toxic relationships, I don't really have any because I've cut them off long time ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that is a weight. You know the song, bag lady, you go. I'm not gonna be a bag man, and ladies,
Right.
don't be a bag lady. Don't
Right.
carry in all that trash. We have to take out the trash. In order to let go, you have to take out the trash. You need to get on the phone, call people up that you've hurt, that you've disappointed, because you freeing them frees you.
That's right. That's
You
right.
got to take out the trash. You gotta own your stuff. You got to apologize to people for things you have done, whether it was voluntary or involuntary. I'm telling you, when you take out the trash, you feel so much better.
That's right.
When you take out the
Freedom
trash.
feeling.
And not to mention, in my case, where I could not get that apology, as Lamar said, you've also got to be strong enough to know that those individuals didn't want to be a part of your life. And you have to be strong enough to let them walk out of your life. You have to be strong enough to watch them walk away and be okay with it. You've got to be strong enough, because you are strong enough to endure anything.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize to let things go. And me not letting things go really hurt my marriage. It really affected my marriage because it ate away at me. It changed who I was. It took me from that sweet, caring, loving guy that my wife fell in love with and turned me into a cynical, mean individual, because I was harboring all that pain. I was harboring all that shame. I was harboring it all, and it changed who I was, and it made me into a person that my wife couldn't love. It made me into a person that my wife just could not coexist with. And I had to get that out of me. I had to learn to let it go, because if I hadn't let it go, I would have lost my wife. Plain and simple, I would have lost my wife.
Wow.
So thank God she was able to make me realize that I've got to fix it. I've got to fix myself. I've got to learn to let things go, and I've got to learn to love what I have and love what's around me, and stop trying to let my mother validate me, because she never is going to validate me. I had to come to that realization, and I had to be okay that she had her back turned and she walked away and she didn't want to be in my life.
Wow.
Because God gave me a mother. Even though that mother walked out of my life, my mother-in-law became my mother.
Wow.
Even though I didn't have that, he gave me her. And for 20 years, God rest her soul, for 20 years, I had a woman in my life that I could honor and love and get loved on. So even though you don't get what you want, I promise you, God will send you something to fill that void. God will send you something to put a hole, to fill up that hole in your heart. And with her, that is what she was. She was that God gift for me that filled that hole in my heart and allowed me to heal and allowed me to move forward and be okay with where I came from.
Yeah, and that's a stronghold, Sean. Strongholds, listen, y'all, they are mental barriers that keep us from experiencing God's peace. Because, Sean, you didn't have any peace because you couldn't experience it because of that stronghold. I didn't have any peace because I couldn't get the grace and the peace of God because of that stronghold.
That's right.
2 Corinthians 10:4 states, the weapons that we fight are not, how is the weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. They are divine powers that demolishes strongholds. Listen, when you let go, you let God. It ain't just a saying. When you let go, you let God. We have to learn how to say, you know what? I'm going to let God deal with this Negro. I'm going to let God have this person. I'm going to let God deal with him. Now, I'm not doing it for God to hurt him. I'm doing it because I want God to give him something, her something to change. God don't change people. He gives people an opportunity to change. He give them an opportunity to change. He doesn't up there in heaven just like, Zach, change him. Zach, change him. Zach, change him. Then it wouldn't no need to have a God.
That's right.
But he provides opportunity for us to change.
That's right.
And I'm happy that I experienced that disappointment, because it made me say, I'm going to break the chain. I'm going to break the curse. I'm going to break the ideology and methodology of parenting from the viewpoint of my father. And I'm going to make sure my kids never experience that. I am a better man than he can write on paper if he was still here. So I took those lessons to become a better me. I took those lessons to become a better me.
Right. Well, Cornelius, what does your day-to-day look like now that you're moving in a better direction as to what has happened to you, and how do you move forward in order to heal your emotion and your mental well-being throughout this whole process?
The first thing is staying busy, because when I found myself sitting still watching a lot of TV, and my mind was idle, and I didn't have any control over my thoughts, so my thoughts would be all out there somewhere. So my family has put together like a daily routine that factors in certain exercises and movements and motions, with my shoulder and my left hand and my arm and my wrist. And then I get on the treadmill that we have here. And then my physical therapist has challenged me to grab my base 15 minutes out of every day.
Okay.
And so I'm working on relearning that.
Okay. That's
awesome.
awesome.
That's what my day looks like. And then, man, I'm just going to say it for the record, and I got this on record. I thank God for people like Lamar Blakney.
Awesome.
Thank you, bro.
Awesome. Awesome.
Seriously, man, and I thank God for you too, Shann. Man, y'all are guys who hold me accountable as a man.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
And that's what we have to do.
I thank y'all for extending the opportunity for me to be a part of this podcast.
Right, right.
Thank y'all for seeing my engagement when we did it a couple, a few weeks ago. Thank you for extending the opportunity for me to be a part.
Hey, you're welcome.
I'm just meeting you over the last couple of months, but I can already tell you have something to tell the world. I can already tell that you have life experiences that the world needs to hear. And here at Mind Changes, with this podcast, our vision was to help people realize who they are moving forward and getting out of stagnant mindsets that stifle their growth and move them so they can't move forward. And you are the poster child of that, with everything you've dealt with all your life experiences, with your faith, with your friendship, with just a great likable guy that you are. It was a no-brainer to make you a part of this whole movement.
Yeah, definitely. And see, y'all, here on Mind Changes, we just want to provide you with great content. We want you guys to communicate back with us. Tell us what you like about the podcast. Tell us what you don't like, because we grow when we know. We don't when we don't know. So this podcast is not about us. We really want to help people change their mindset. We want the people to change their mindset. And next week, we probably get back on this topic. Sorry about that. Get back on this topic. We may talk about habit and addictions, because letting go is more than just emotions we have to let go of, but there are behaviors we have to let go of, because a lot of our children here in our city are dying because they couldn't let go of an offense.
That's right.
A lot of our relationships are breaking apart. People are getting divorced because they couldn't let go of an offense.
That's right.
People are harming folks, beating somebody to death because they couldn't let go of an offense. Young ladies, let me tell you, listen to me. If a man ever put his hands on you, it is over. You hear me? It is over. We just had a beautiful young lady. Whether she wasn't beautiful or not, she just happened to be a beautiful young lady. Her and her baby were murdered by the father who took his own life. Y'all help me make sense of that.
Because he couldn't let go. He could not let go of the fact that he couldn't have them, that he couldn't have them.
That's right. And Shann, I'm glad you said that. This is why we're doing this podcast. I pray for that mother that had to bury her daughter and her grandbaby. I can't even fathom that. I can't imagine getting that call that somebody couldn't let go of something, that they took something away from somebody. And that young woman couldn't let go of that abuse. I don't know the story, but it had to be for it to happen that way. And if she let go, he didn't want her to let go.
That's right. That's a common thing in our society right now. We have a lot of men, a lot of young men that just can't let go of a relationship with a young lady when she's ready to move on. And these men are harming these women. These men are killing them, and not only killing them, they're annihilating families in the process. I mean, like in this event we had a woman, we had a child, we had somebody who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, he was annihilating anything in that was anywhere near him, this situation, and all because he could not let go. I mean, like you said, we don't know all the details of, and at the end of the day, we shouldn't. It's none of our business. But what little we do know, he just could not let go of a situation.
Yeah. And here's the crazy thing, Cornelius and Shann. Every time, well, not every time, a couple of times, my wife and I went to Olive Garden, right? And she would serve us. We would always say, she's a nice, young, quiet, mannered, very well mannered. And when we heard about it, we was looking at the pictures, and my wife was like, I know her from somewhere. I was like, I do too. And then she went to a picture where she had real long pretty hair, and when I saw the ponytail, like I saw her at Olive Garden, my wife was like, that's the girl from Olive Garden. Man, it broke my heart. Y'all don't understand. Letting go is a skill.
It is.
We have to practice how to let go some stuff.
You have to let go. That's right.
It's
and
a
you're
skill.
You're not going to get it right every time.
That's right.
You got to work at it. You got to work at it.
It's a skill. So listen, we want you guys to in the description, we will have our Facebook, our YouTube page. Like and subscribe. Listen, share this podcast with friends and family, because we're Mind Changers Podcast. And listen, fellas, before we close, man, listen, give a closing statement.
What you got, Cornelius?
Man, what you said was so impactful. Letting go requires work, and it requires practice. And the letting go part is for you.
Yes.
Yeah. What about you, Shann?
Letting go is so important. If you don't master that skill, it will change who you are. It will always change who you are.
Yes. And listen, we got to practice forgiveness. Like I said, this isn't just about forgiving others. It's about forgiving yourself too. Let go of the guilt and the shame so that you won't hold on and be a captive. Don't fall into captivity. So listen, we want to thank y'all guys for joining our podcast. Until next time.
We told y'all we came to expose the lies and reveal the truth. We told y'all we bring in biblical principles of factual truth. We told y'all we came to expose the lies and reveal the truth. We told y'all we bring in biblical principles of factual truth. We told y'all, yeah we did. We told y'all, yeah we did. We told y'all we came to expose the lies and reveal the truth.